Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming to my talk. My name is Tim Leong. I work for Comcast. I'm a cloud platform architect. And what I do is work on enterprise cloud. Now, enterprise cloud, what do you think of when you think enterprise? What do you think of when you think cloud? Well, in my mind, it feels a little bit like these guys. Does anybody in the room remember who these guys are? If you do, congratulations. This was 15 years ago that these commercials came out. So if you feel old, you're welcome. So it feels a little bit like this, though, when you're dealing with enterprise cloud. On the left-hand side, you've got the PC guy. He's very rigid, structured, lots of rules and policies and procedures to follow. And on the cloud side, on the other side, it's the cool guy. He doesn't sweat the small details. If things fail, not a big deal. Just restart, move on with your life. Not a big deal. And I'm a cloud guy, and I work for an enterprise, so it's my job to pull these two worlds together. And the enterprise needs the cloud in order to maintain their competitive advantage in the industry, in order to compete and be able to deliver and create things quickly. And at the same time, us working on the cloud, we have to take care of some of those rigid requirements that enterprises have. And we have to make sure that enterprise teams and dev teams feel comfortable in the cloud. And PCF and Cloud Foundry is a vehicle for enabling that comfort and allowing these teams to more easily migrate to the cloud. So at Comcast, we've been doing this for 4 years, and it's going really well. We have 19,000 AIs at this point across 5,300 apps. These are running on 12 foundations, both private and public cloud. And they're responsible for processing 1.5 billion transactions per day. So we are busy, and this is a great, our environment has been doing really well. But it's not been automatic. This did not just come out of the box like this. As an enterprise, we had to work at it. We had to come up with ways in which some of our app teams could feel more comfortable moving to a platform like this. I'm sure a lot of you who have dealt with this platform before have been asked a lot of questions regarding enterprise concerns. And what are those enterprise concerns? Well, I think of it in terms of a starter pack. So if you're an enterprise, you have a starter pack. You need to have monitoring. You need to have backups. Where's my data? How can you make sure that my data is secure? How can you make sure that my application will remain resilient in the event that a data center goes away or blows up? Change control is always hand in hand with enterprise IT. Everything has to be planned. Everything has to be approved. It feels a little bit like a cruise ship sometimes in how it adapts for change. Security and compliance, and obviously cube culture is a huge thing. So these are questions we get all the time about the platform as we try to migrate dev teams here and make them more cloud compliant. And fortunately for us, the CF platform is really conducive to handling a lot of these concerns. Backups, PCF has a great backup solution. We use it every day. We can be assured that data for the platform is in a safe location that can be restored in the event of some sort of catastrophic event. Change control is also handled very well by the platform. Things are deployed and configured in a way that takes away a lot of risk from your application, the applications that are hosted on the platform. But these others we had to deal with. So monitoring, there's a lot of options out there for monitoring. We had to choose the one that worked the best for us and satisfied all of the enterprise-like requirements that we had going into the platform. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Security and compliance, PCF and Cloud Foundry is inherently a very secure platform. However, there are a lot of decisions you have to make and things you have to do in order to satisfy your specific needs when it comes to security. Disaster recovery. Disaster recovery is one of the first questions we always get. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about first. We refer to that as isolation. So when you think of PCF, it's a great platform for providing resiliency within a single site. So if you have your application deployed to PCF, you can scale it out to thousands of instances, and they will be resilient in the event of many, many different infrastructure failures. But what our app dev teams come to us first saying is, well, what happens in a disaster recovery scenario? What happens if we have a data center issue? How do we make sure that we can easily and automatically fail over to another PCF instance without downtime? And we didn't really have an answer for them. Out of the box, we didn't have an answer for them. And there's other isolation challenges as well. I talked about application single site only, not being able to automatically fail over between sites. Data isolation is a problem as well. The single site architecture of PCF isn't necessarily conducive to sharing data across multiple sites or doing replication across multiple sites, nothing out of the box there. And for me, I'm an operator as well, so management and consistency across multiple sites is also somewhat of a challenge. So for application redundancy, we have a solution. So my friend Sergey, who's sitting over there, worked and architected a solution for providing our application teams methodologies for on-demand, immediate access to multi-site redundancy through our BYOU and GSLB service. So what does BYOU mean? BYOU means bring your own URL. So when you have an application team that wants to host their app on Cloud Foundry, but they need a specific URL to host their application on, this is the service that does it for you. What this will do, and we wrote this will automatically, through a simple Cloud Foundry create service command, be able to update DNS to point your URL at a specific site. It will take in any TLS certificates that you need to protect that site with SSL or TLS. And it will also update our HA proxy layer at the very top layer so that URLs will properly route within Cloud Foundry. So that's the first one. So what we have is two apps, one at each site. And with our BYOU service, a user will just run a single command within CF. And now, these two apps with it at each site can share the same URL and have TLS be terminated at those HA proxies. But still, you're not doing multi-site redundancy, right? So we needed to integrate with some sort of DNS-based load balancing to be able to automatically load balance between these two sites and also be able to do health check and failover. So our GSLB service is able to interact with our network GSLB layer to create these GSLB URLs and automatically failover between two sites. Just a quick example of what this looks like code-wise. Those are the command lines. That's what it actually looks like when someone wants to do it. And what this has done for us is allowed our application teams to deploy multi-site applications that are resilient and redundant, not in 4 weeks after dealing with 16 different networking teams and certificate teams and all these other things, basically running these commands and implementing for themselves on demand in minutes. So we have a good solution there, but there are still some challenges we have in terms of isolation. Persistence is still a problem. If you want resilient data, it's bring your own. If you want sharing data across sites, you have to figure that out on your own. And we're still working on a solution. So we're very interested in Docker-based container orchestration. I think that's all the rage, especially at this conference. So we're very interested in going that direction as well. And from a management plane perspective, we plan on leveraging CI/CD or concourse to manage multiple sites at the same time. So back to our starter pack, we have DR handled. The next thing I want to talk about is security and compliance. So as we were becoming more popular at Comcast, people started asking questions like, is your platform PCI compliant? Can you support a PCI compliant workload within Cloud Foundry? So we eventually had to deal with this issue and try to come up with methodologies for a way in which we could support these workloads, because many app teams wanted the advantage that CF brought, but they processed credit card transactions, so we had some more work to do. So challenges in this space: multi-tenant policy enforcement. So the first thing we had to figure out is how can you have multiple tenants and apply a security policy for each one when you're living in such a dynamic environment where IP means nothing. So one of the big problems is that PCF is sort of a new world for security and audit. You can no longer create your security policies based on IP address. So you have to figure out a way in which you can apply security policy to an app and not just an IP. Forensic analysis for dynamic IPs was also a challenge for us, trying to figure out how we can do forensic analysis on issues that came across after the fact and tying that back to a specific application so they can do forensic analysis within such a dynamic environment where IPs and host names and everything else is changing all the time. And then just in general, what's a PAS, right? So when we talk to our security and compliance guys, they've never dealt with a solution like this. How are you going to educate them on what this is, how it works, when they've never dealt with something like this in the past? So as this is a topic on security and compliance, I can't go into too much detail on specifically how we solve these issues, but I can give you some of our success factors. So education is key. So understanding what PCI is, reading through all of the documentation, understanding the standards, educating yourself, and then once you're educated into those standards, educating your security people, educating them on what this platform is, how it works, how data flows, why is it secure, why is one thing not a concern because this is a different type of platform. That was the hardest part, I'll be honest with you. That took the longest time. Just having your security folks have faith in this platform as a secure platform was a huge hurdle. Reducing attack surface, that was one of our success factors. So only exposing what you have in PCF that needs to be exposed. So your HA proxy layers, your management planes that you touch. You don't want to expose your entire platform to your internal network so that they're open to attack. And I can talk to you more about that if you want to stop by later. Don't mix and match. One of the things that we came up with, we had a problem with at first was if you have PCI compliant workloads and non-compliant workloads, you probably shouldn't mix those things together. Some people might have gotten that to work, but what really helped us was building a compliant environment for compliance workloads, and then we could make really good architectural decisions that fit the need instead of trying to shoehorn it into something that was already existing. Application-based filtering, I talked about this a little bit before. So understanding how you can understand incoming traffic and reading that data and building policies based on application metadata rather than IP address. The PCF add-ons were a big help. They have a virus scanner, a file integrity monitor, and some other add-ons that we were able to leverage, which were able to satisfy some of the requirements for us, and they were super easy to install. So that was big. Logging and auditing. Our auditors actually thought that PCF did really, really good logging. So the fact that they basically log everything and send it out through the fire hose, it made it really easy to ingest and set up sort of an auditing system so that they could see what was going on on the platform. And then PCF documentation. They have an entire security team that is dedicated to giving you the proof that you need to give to your auditors to say, here's the vendor documentation that says X, Y, and Z is secure because of all of these different reasons. So they've done a really good job of documenting all of those things and addressing all of the requirements of the PCI standard. So that's PCF. That's PCI compliance and security. So we got that going. Next, I want to talk about monitoring. So always when you're looking at an enterprise IT organization, they're going to ask you, how do I understand what's going on? How do I put somebody in front of a 24/7 eyes-on-glass dashboard that can detect a problem the minute it happens? So there's a lot of choices out there. When we got started 4 years ago, there weren't as many choices. So we've had to really dig in, try to understand the core KPIs for monitoring and metrics, and build the solution for ourselves. So the challenges we had, we wanted to do a total stack KPI. So we own the entire stack. We own the infrastructure underneath. We own the platform. And we have a very tight partnership with our app team, so we wanted to give them some metrics that they could use in order to determine the health of their applications. So we wanted to go across the entire stack. We wanted to address all of the different needs of monitoring, so providing status, notifying people when it's necessary, taking a look at event dashboards, and being able to look at monitoring trends. We wanted to be very transparent. So when we look at our monitoring metrics, the things that we use to do our jobs every day, we wanted to offer that to our application developers in order to be completely transparent about our issues, and that helped us build trust. So we wanted to make sure that happened. Modular. So we wanted to make sure that the monitoring system was able to be switched in and out. Things are changing all the time with technology, so making sure that the individual components could be switched out if we wanted to go with Influx one day or switch it out for another data warehouse, or if we have Prometheus one day, but the next day we wanted to use Grafana and Telegraph, we could do that with this system because it's modular. And we wanted to go open source only. So this is what we came up with. This is a busy slide, I apologize, but it's sort of, when you look at a monitoring system, it's always just gonna be complicated. What we have here is, you can see that we are covering infrastructure, we're covering application metrics, we're covering system metrics from the OS, and we're covering the platform metrics from Cloud Foundry. So the platform metrics, our Nagios instance pulls those out of the JMX bridge, which exists on Cloud Foundry. That feeds metrics up to Influx database. We have a Telegraph agent BOSH release that Sergey wrote that we deploy alongside with Cloud Foundry. And what that does is it puts a Telegraph agent on every VM and sends really good data from the OS perspective up to Influx. From the infrastructure side, we are a VMware shop, so we use VROPs to pull KPIs out and get visibility into all sorts of things that are happening on the VMware side. And Telegraph Buildpack we use is another is another piece of software that Sergey wrote that allows us to deploy Telegraph as an app to Cloud Foundry, which makes it very easy to scale your monitoring systems out. And we use that to pull application metrics back into Influx so we can graph that as well. So Influx is sort of the central hub of all of our metrics. And we use that to feed our Grafana dashboards for viewing performance trends. We use Alerta for our event dashboard. Notification happens through Slack. Capacitor is it basically processes all of your metrics and creates alerts out of them that can go to your alert dashboard or to Slack. And then we also use a status dashboard so that similar to like if you're looking at AWS status, it will show you what the status of all the different facilities are in Cloud Foundry. So our dashboards have come a long way. We use this one. I use this one every day. We all use this one every day. And this really gives you a good perspective at the top of how the platform is performing. And then we go down the stack as we go down through the dashboard. So then we look at our HA proxies, and then we have our router layer down below. So this really gives us a quick view of how well our systems are doing. It also allows us to do cool things like showing our tenants how much they're consuming. So we want to be able to see how many instances are running at each one of our sites. And those pie graphs up there are showing which organizations are consuming the most AIs and how we're doing against our licensing limits and all that stuff at the top. Alerta is pretty nice. It's a clean dashboard for seeing what is currently happening within the system. All of the current alerts and events that are active show up on this dashboard, so that's a really quick view. So that's a good tool. So we're good. We got monitoring. We got our starter pack is looking better. We've got monitoring, backups, DR, change control, and compliance. But there's still the cube culture, right? We have enterprise IT is notorious for cube culture. And I think all of you have heard all the talks today talking about how the culture is so important when moving to a cloud environment such as this one. And we can say in our team, working on technology like this has enabled us to work better together. This is our team. All of these guys on our team are here today, ready to answer anybody's questions about anything that we've talked about in this talk or any of the previous talks. So I encourage everybody to work more together, try to break down those barriers and be more collaborative when working with this type of technology and come up with really great solutions. That's really helped us. So that's my talk. I appreciate the time. Definitely check out some more talks that we have coming up. We have my boss, Greg, will be on a keynote panel tomorrow. And then Nithya and Sheila will be doing a talk on how Comcast has embraced open, which both from an open source and a diversity perspective. So that's going to be a great talk. And then we have a booth where we can answer any questions about anything that we've talked about so far. We have recruiters on site to talk about job prospects within Comcast. So please come talk to us, come collaborate, and thank you very much.